Here in the Pacific Northwest, D.B. Cooper is a folk legend. In 1971, he stole a bunch of money and parachuted out of an airplane. This beer claims that he was helped by Bigfoot. And here I am now just wondering what sort of clickbait title I'll give this beer. Hi, welcome to another episode of Chewing the Brew. This is Matthew. Today I will be drinking Victor 23's Co-conspirator, which has a picture of ostensibly D.B. Cooper with his suitcase full of cash and an interesting abominable snowman, Yeti, whatever that thing was I just used, the term, Bigfoot, that thing, in that he's like missing hair on his arm and one part of his chest. That's a certainly artistic license, I suppose. So I have not heard very much about Victor 23. Let me correct that. I haven't heard anything about Victor 23 in the past. And yet it was, per Washington Beer Awards, the 2023 Small Brewery of the Year. They are out of Vancouver, Washington. And a nice little bit of nerd trivia regarding this beer is the name Co-conspirator is a clue as to what kind of beer it is. Now I'll let you know what type of beer that should be telling you in 3, 2, 1. Get your votes in now. It's a Doppelbock. Why is it a Doppelbock? Because way back when, in the annals of history, when names were given to beers, the Germans decided if it has the word or the suffix ator or ator in it, it's going to be a Doppelbock. And so Optimator, I believe, was one of the original Doppelbocks. Any beer that you see in general whose name ends in ator, A-T-O-R, is going to be a Doppelbock. So the more you know. The more you know. Just opening this, I was picking up some very nice banana. As I get my nose deeper in, there's a really nice maltiness, and I think I'm identifying this as barley, which would make sense if it's a German-style Doppelbock, definitely. Also a little bit of a minerality to it. If there's more kid noises, that's only because we have like 4 times as many kids on the property at the moment as we usually do. So, maltiness, a little bit of minerality. When I stick my nose into it, I don't pick up the banana quite the same way. But there's a very nice nutty breadiness and almost a legume as well. Like a lentil note. Kind of interesting. It smells tasty. A little bit about Doppelbocks. So Bock means goat in German. And that was a name given to strong brown ales. Ales, right? I think so. I'm pretty sure it's an ale. I'm going to assume it's an ale at this point. So Bock was a name given to strong brown beers, and Doppel means double. So Doppelbock means double strong. It would be akin to the Belgian Doppel, or Dubel, I guess. Belgian Dubel, or our Imperial. As you get further up, you get to triple and stuff like that. At that point, I mean, at some point, who's counting, right? So a Doppelbock is just a double strong brown ale or brown beer, simply because I don't recall at the moment whether it's a lager or an ale. So I will try to avoid saying things that aren't true. So I'm expecting this to be relatively strong, and indeed the ABV, I believe, is over 8%. So we're looking at an 8.3, not even 8, 9.5% ABV, and a pretty low IBU at 20. It doesn't smell boozy at all, which is an interesting comparison to I believe it was a 10% something bombastic beer I drank recently, which smelt boozy. 9%, you should still be able to smell some alcohol to it. And the fact that you can't indicates that they balanced this very nicely. And they didn't want it to smell boozy. Ooh. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that is very nice. So, while the aroma has very little sweetness to it, the taste has a decent amount of sweetness. Not a huge amount, but a decent amount. And it's an interesting sweetness that tastes of grains, which is what you would expect. You would want that. But it's like they taste of good grains, tasty grains. There is a little bit of minerality, which serves to give almost a zesty character to the sweetness. The sweetness is... What is that tasting of? It's a very... I'm going to guess it's like straight up malts. Like they just said, we want this to be a very malty beer, and they made a very malty beer. Like I'm tasting these grains and like the sweet output of barley. It's really quite something. It's not cloyingly sweet. It's very sweet. It's of the circle of relatively strong beers I've been drinking over the last few weeks. This is the sweetest by far. It does reach to a syrupy quality at points, but there's a lot of character to that syrup, and it is a grain syrup. Back when I was growing up, my mom at one point bought Lundberg brand rice syrup. I don't know if it was cheap or healthy. She was a fan of healthiness. She is a fan of healthiness. It was an interesting syrup, and it was sweet, and it had this very distinctly rice character to it, which was unique and some sort of a memory of childhood for me. This doesn't taste of the rice syrup, but it does taste of a grain-based syrup, which is really kind of intriguing. Definitely not the Mrs. Butterworth's or the maple syrup. Not at all, no. But I would say that for its thickness and its bigness, all of the character is wrapped up in the type of sweetness it is. And that's kind of an interesting characteristic. I'm hesitant to say that there's a lot of complexity in this, which is something you might want in a really strong beer. Some complexity helps things go down, helps to give you some break from the monotony, helps prevent it from becoming monotonous. Let me phrase it that way instead. And I'm not saying this is monotonous. I'm just saying that it has to me, it has one trick. It's a really good trick. But it is only one trick. But it is a really good trick, right? So there's that balance there. Yeah, I like that. It's almost like a club soda with a really earthy grain-based syrup. That minerality has this really nice, not peppery though. You could maybe equate it to a white pepper, kind of. But it's a pretty strong minerality, and then this really nice earthy, deep sweetness. That works very nicely. I like it. This is a really good beer. This feels like a fortifying beer. Cold days, you need a good beer to strengthen you after you've been out working all day, as I have totally been. I have actually, ish. But yeah, it feels like a very fortifying beer, like a strong beer that gives you a whole lot of energy. It's literally liquid bread kind of beer. I think it would I'm not sure actually if it would benefit from being warmer to my palate, but I would guess that this style is probably intended to be drunk warmer. Just being I'm guessing this is a very traditional take on the German Doppelbock given little to no apparent hoppiness, and just that really strong malt, really big malt, and minerality. I'm gonna guess this drunk warm would be pretty akin to the real thing. Not that this isn't the real thing, but maybe a traditional example of the style. An actual German Doppelbock. Just say that. Yeah. Good stuff. I like it. The character in the sweetness really drives this. The fact that it is not just cloying Mrs. Butterworth's or maple syrup or honey or sugar or something like that. It's a complex sweetness, but it is only a complex sweetness. And that's pretty dang good. So, ratings. So, 0 stars, not this beer. 0 stars is a beer that's not worth drinking, right? 1 star, it's okay, but it's not my thing. 2 stars, it's okay and it's my thing. 3 stars is an exemplary beer that you should probably go out of your way to try and find. I'm going to give this a strong, solid 2 stars. It's a good beer. And it's totally my thing. This is me, Matthew. I've been drinking and enjoying Victor 23's Co-conspirator. And I'll catch y'all on the flip side.